Fear does not always come with danger. Sometimes, it comes with an idea, a simple thought that slowly grows inside the mind. The moment people start believing that survival depends on defeating others, unity begins to crack. Cooperation turns into competition. Trust turns into suspicion. And friends slowly become rivals. This story is not just about students in a classroom. It is about how fear, when planted in the mind, can make ordinary people destroy their own chances of success without anyone forcing them to do so. 30 students sat quietly in their chairs, their notebooks closed, their eyes fixed on the large clock hanging above the whiteboard. The ticking sound echoed louder than usual, like a countdown to something none of them could escape. These students had studied together for months. They had shared notes, helped each other solve problems, and encouraged one another during difficult lessons. Some were close friends, some were rivals, but until today, they were still a group, still united. Then the classroom doors slowly opened. The teacher walked in, calm and expressionless, carrying a stack of exam papers. No greeting, no smile, just silence. He placed the papers on the desk and looked at the students one by one, as if measuring their reactions before speaking. Then, in a slow and steady voice, he said, "Today's exam will be different." A ripple of tension moved through the room. Students exchanged nervous glances. One student whispered, "Different how?" The teacher paused, letting the silence grow heavier. Then he delivered the rule that would change everything. At the end of this exam, he said, "The student with the lowest score will be permanently removed from this class." The words fell like stones into still water. Shock spread instantly. Some students leaned forward in disbelief. Others stared down at their desks, their hands trembling. One student raised his hand cautiously. "Sir, is this a joke?" The teacher shook his head slowly. "No, this is reality. Life does not reward everyone equally." Silence filled the room again, but this time, it was not calm silence. It was fear. The teacher continued, "You may begin." He handed out the papers. At first, everything seemed normal. Pens touched paper. Pages turned. Students focused on solving questions they had practiced many times before. But then, something changed. A single thought began forming in their minds. "I must not be the lowest." That thought spread quietly from one student to another, like smoke filling a closed room. One student, who usually shared notes with others, quietly covered his answer sheet with his arm. Another student, noticing this, did the same. Soon, several students stopped helping each other entirely. A girl who had once explained difficult problems to her classmates now kept her eyes fixed on her own paper, ignoring the confused glance of the boy sitting beside her. The atmosphere slowly shifted. Trust turned into suspicion. Whispers turned into silence. Minutes passed. Then an unexpected event happened. A student at the back raised his hand nervously. "Sir, I don't understand." Question 5. Normally, the teacher would explain. Normally, someone nearby would help. But today, nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The teacher simply replied, "Figure it out yourself." The student lowered his hand slowly. Around him, others secretly felt relief. If he fails, I am safer. That dangerous thought grew stronger. Soon, small acts of selfishness became larger ones. One student deliberately erased a shared formula from the corner of the board. Another student quietly gave wrong hints to someone asking for help. Some students rushed through questions, making careless mistakes in their panic. Others wasted time checking their answers again and again, terrified of losing even one mark. The room was no longer a place of learning. It had become a battlefield, not with weapons, but with fear. Time passed. Sweat formed on foreheads. Hands shook. Breathing became uneven. The clock continued ticking. Tick, tick, tick. Halfway through the exam, one quiet student finally whispered, "We should help each other. If we all pass, nobody has to fail." For a brief moment, hope appeared. A few students looked up. They hesitated. They thought, but then another voice interrupted. "What if helping others makes me the lowest?" That single sentence destroyed the moment. Hope disappeared. Fear returned, stronger than before. The final hour approached. Students became desperate. Some flipped pages repeatedly, searching for answers that suddenly seemed unfamiliar. Some stared blankly at questions they once knew perfectly. The pressure had broken their confidence, not because the exam was too hard, but because their fear was too strong. Finally, the bell rang, a sharp, echoing sound that filled the room. Pens dropped. Papers were collected. The teacher gathered the exams silently and placed them into a neat pile. The students sat still, exhausted, their minds racing. Moments later, the teacher began reading the results. Names were called one by one. Scores were announced. Some students sighed with relief. Others lowered their heads in disappointment. Then came the final name, the lowest score. A quiet student who had once been one of the most helpful in the class. He sat frozen, not because he was incapable, but because fear had made him doubt himself. The teacher looked around the room and spoke one final time. "Look at yourselves." The students remained silent. "You were not defeated by this exam," he continued. "You were defeated by fear." He paused, then added, "The questions were not difficult. You knew the answers, but instead of trusting each other, you turned against each other." The room felt heavier than ever. Many students slowly realized the truth. Their mistakes were not caused by lack of knowledge. They were caused by panic, by suspicion, by selfishness. One student whispered quietly, almost to himself, "The exam didn't break us. We broke ourselves." And in that moment, the real lesson became clear. Sometimes, the greatest threat is not the challenge in front of you. It is the fear that turns allies into enemies. Because when people stop working together, they do not just lose individually, they fail collectively.